What lengths would you go to visit Machu Picchu? And how would you feel if you finally arrived to a view like this? The lost city of the Incas is in an extremely inaccessible part of the world, tucked away in the jaggedy, crumpled Andes. It's a site that's on a lot of people's bucket lists because of the combination of mystic Incan culture, its improbable setting perched on a pointy mountain, and its sheer beauty. So when my daughter Sophie said she was planning to go, I leapt at the chance to join her, as did her sister Georgia. The experience of visiting Machu Picchu was far richer than just visiting the site itself. To get there, we trekked 75 kilometres over 5 days through stunning mountain and forest scenery, and the experience was fantastic. And of course, the fog lifted to reveal the wonderful Machu Picchu in glorious sunshine.
Here I am, day 1 in Peru, doing the Salkantay trek. And we are just approaching the sky domes where we're going to sleep tonight. Up ahead you can see 2 snowy peaks, but actually it's not snow, it's ice. It's glacial. I can't remember the name of the one in front, but the one over to my right is Salkantay itself. I can't remember the height of it, but it's over 6,000 metres. We're at about 3,800 metres at the moment, I think. It's absolutely stunning.
To get here, we hopped on a plane from London via Bogotá in Colombia to Cusco in Peru. Cusco means navel in Quechua, and the city was the epicentre of the vast Incan Empire. Sitting at 3,400 metres above sea level, there is 30 to 40% less oxygen available, and water boils at 88 degrees centigrade. So we spent an essential 3 days acclimatising before embarking on our hike. The altitude does take some getting used to, as does not putting loo paper down the loo. Perfect acclimatisation activities included lots of gentle shopping and sightseeing, including the wonderful Coricancha, where you can see Spanish architecture plonked by the 16th century conquistadors on top of Incan buildings. The latter's impeccable mortarless masonry is beyond compare. Our first hiking day started with a flat and unimpeded 3-hour walk to our campsite at the Sorre Pampa Sky Camp, where we were to sleep under the stars in glass igloos bundled up in Arctic-grade sleeping bags, alpaca blankets and hot water bottles. Before we could settle in for the night, we had a test run of a 1-hour climb to Humante Lake at 4,200 metres, partly because it's stunning and partly to see how we'd cope with the 3-hour climb to the Salkantay Pass on day 2. We began our ascent at 6 a.m. at the break of day in temperatures well below zero. Given the lack of oxygen, we took the climb at a very steady pace, and there's no doubt that all the long-distance cycling that I do has given me the fitness to tackle a hike like this. For those affected by altitude sickness, there was the option to ride a horse up to the top of the pass. The horses were also carrying our overnight bags, as well as all the equipment needed by our cooks to keep us very well fed throughout our journey. Our hike was expertly run by Salkantay Trekking, and we shared our experience with a lovely group of 5 Americans and a Romanian, as well as our fantastic tour guide Angelo, a horseman and 2 cooks. The organisation and logistics were flawless, and Angelo's passion for Inca culture, as well as his knowledge of the landscape and its history, made for a very special and spiritual experience. He encouraged us to connect with Pachamama, Mother Earth, and to be grateful for all that she provides, and our full immersion in this wonderful environment made that easy. Reaching the Salkantay Pass came with a significant sense of achievement, and we shared the moment together with a cup of coca tea, basking in the strong Andean sun. Coca tea is the drink of choice in Peru and is made from the dried leaves of the native coca plant. It's traditionally used to boost energy and combat altitude sickness, and contains a low concentration of the alkaloids found in cocaine. You have to be careful though, because drinking the tea can result in a positive drugs test, and it's illegal to import, possess or consume coca tea in the UK and the USA. The coca leaf was also central to Inca civilization, serving as a sacred plant, currency and remedy, and important people who were mummified were bundled up with a supply of leaves to keep them going in the afterlife. Following our slow climb to the Salkantay Pass, we faced a demanding 6-hour descent to our next camp. This took us first through the treeless glacial valley strewn with ginormous pink boulders, on a path shared with the horses carrying the kit of the several trekking groups on the trail. Horses arrived in Peru with the Spanish conquistadors, beginning with the arrival of Francisco Pizarro in 1531, who turned up with 62 Spanish horses. These giant animals, never seen before by the Incans, gave the invaders a massive tactical advantage and changed the military and cultural history of Peru forever. They can carry heavy loads and be ridden, unlike the native llamas and alpacas. There are no longer any wild llamas or alpacas in Peru, but both are important domesticated animals used for wool and meat. Alpacas, which are smaller, are bred for their incredibly soft, luxurious wool, whereas llamas can be used to transport goods, although they refuse to budge if you give them more than 20 kilograms to carry. As we made our descent down the mountain, the vegetation gradually became richer and more dense, with the appearance of a few trees and shrubs. The temperature also rose dramatically, and by the time we reached our lunch stop, we were more than ready for a break. Guinea pigs also play a starring role in Peruvian culture, but the sensitivities of pet-loving Westerners meant we weren't offered this particular delicacy by our Trek chefs. Instead, the South American staples of potato, corn and quinoa featured heavily in our freshly prepared 4-course meals, and we were never at risk of being underfueled. The final stretch of our 11-hour trek took us further down the valley into the stunning cloud forest and all the way down to 2,900 metres and ever closer to the roaring river fed by the melting glaciers of the surrounding peaks. As we neared the end of this challenging 24-kilometre day, I felt properly exhausted, and my pace picked up towards the end only because I was, by now, desperate for the loo. Thankfully, our lovely mountain sky view glamping hut at Colpapampa came with its own ensuite bathroom, as well as 3 comfortable beds and a stunning view. Day 3 started with the now familiar 5 a.m. alarm ready for a hearty breakfast and dawn departure. As you can see on this map of the whole trek, Day 3 was a somewhat shorter recovery day between a long and strenuous Day 2 and Day 4. After some natural history Pachamama words of wisdom from Angelo, we continued our journey north towards Machu Picchu through the mountainous region to the northwest of Cusco and the Sacred Valley. The path up the valley was absolutely gorgeous, and the extra oxygen at our lower altitude made the going noticeably easier. The vegetation took on a more lush tropical feel, and mosquitoes joined the trekking party. Our mid-morning break was at a fruit farm where we sampled all the wonderful local fruits, including the biggest and tastiest mango I've ever had. My mouth is watering just remembering it. Refreshed, we continued, but recent wet season landslides meant we had to abandon the trail after 8 kilometres and move to the dirt road on the other side of the valley, across a bridge so rickety we were only allowed over one at a time. We also stopped at a coffee farm and got a hands-on demo of how coffee is made, including the chance to taste the fruits of our labours. Coffee is still way too bitter for my liking, but the sights and smells were terrific. Our coffee stop was also a chance to lounge in the sun for a bit, in my case watching and trying to film the heliconius butterflies spiralling across the deep blue sky. From there we continued north along the dirt road and were collected by a minibus for the final leg to our next glamping stop. It turns out that being thrown from side to side as you speed along a single track dirt road on the edge of a precipice is far more stressful than walking, but we made it to the jungle domes in one piece and in time for lunch. After a quick tour of our fabulous jungle glamp site, we stuffed ourselves with another sumptuous lunch before heading off on another terrifying bus ride to the Mayo hot springs, where we spent a wonderful 2 hours soaking in the hot thermal pools. After a round of tequila shots in the local bar, we had a raucous trip back when our bus driver let rip with the Bee Gees and disco lights, which our exhausted guide Angelo managed to sleep all the way through. Day 4 saw us up at the crack of dawn once more to begin a warm and sweaty hike up through the banana and coffee groves and through the cloud forest up to the Salkantay Pass, where we caught our first glimpse of Machu Picchu in the distance. I still find it hard to imagine how we managed to walk from this spot to the base of Machu Picchu over the following 6 hours, but we did. We also explored the Incan site of Salkantay. Built in the 15th century, it features the distinctive Incan trapezoidal doorways and windows, which helped their buildings withstand earthquakes. What followed was a particularly tough descent into the next valley on steep rocky paths that pushed my knees to the limit. Refreshed after lunch and ice creams, the final 3 hours of this punishing day were along the railway line that runs to Aguas Calientes, the tourist town at the foot of Machu Picchu. Trackside safety standards aren't quite up to network rail standards, but the train driver made full use of his horn to ensure he didn't flatten any tourists on the track. At last we had made it to the end of our epic trek, and the next morning the sense of anticipation was palpable as we boarded the dawn bus up to Machu Picchu. The site can accommodate around 5,000 people a day, but we were among the smug few hundred who turn up on foot, having scaled high-altitude peaks and descended rocky valleys to get there. The early start meant two things: beating the crowds, and also thick mist concealing the famous view. But the mist's gradual lifting to reveal the famous Incan settlement made the experience even more magical. Machu Picchu definitely deserves its place as one of the world's most famous archaeological treasures. Everything about the place is magical: the architecture, the setting, and the rich sense of history. We spent a full 4 hours exploring the site, with the benefit of Angelo's knowledge bringing the site to life. Built during the reign of Inca Emperor Pachacuti around 1450, it was probably a royal estate and religious retreat rather than a large permanent city. It appears to have been abandoned following the arrival of the Spanish in the 16th century and was unknown beyond Peru until the American Hiram Bingham was guided there by locals in 1911, and tourism has been growing ever since. Back in Cusco, we had a quiet day at the Inca Museum and exploring the San Blas district. Then the city suddenly burst into life for the vibrant Corpus Christi celebration. This is one of Cusco's most important religious events and offers a fascinating glimpse into Peru's rich cultural heritage. The streets were alive with music and dancing in a festival that's a curious blend of Catholic and Andean customs, creating a unique cultural spectacle. 15 saint and virgin statues are carried in magnificent processions on Incan-style settles from churches across the city to Cusco's Plaza de Armas. It was a complete fluke that we coincided with this fabulous party, and it was a fitting end to an amazing trip. Peru is a beautiful country, and there is so much more to Machu Picchu than meets the eye. Thank you, Sophie and Georgia, for a wonderful holiday.